Hello, happy coders, and welcome to a bonus tutorial in JavaScript coding. As you move on to make your own independent projects, you're going to have to be able to problem solve and test your code. You'll need some strategies so that when stuff doesn't work, and it will 99% of the time not work, you need to be able to work out what's going wrong and how do I fix it. So in this tutorial, I'm going to give you a couple of really good tips, some really good strategies so that you can solve your own problems as you work on your own projects. So I've written a simple program here where it's going to generate a random number between 1 and 10. It gets the user to make a guess. It checks the guess to see if the user's guess matches the target number or if it's too high or too low. That's all these if statements in here. And then it'll write to HTML into the content panel here the actual number and whether you got it right or not. So that's what's meant to happen. But when I make sure I'm saved there, and when I run this script, nothing happens because there's a whole bunch of things that have gone wrong. So I'm going to work through how I'd solve this and along the way demonstrate a few tips. So always the first thing I look for are red underlines. Anywhere there's a red underline, there's definitely a mistake. So it's already telling me up here that there are 2 errors that it's detected. It won't find everything, but it's found 2 things. One of them's right here on this else statement. It can't give me much advice there about how to fix it, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, there's something wrong right here, and I can pretty quickly identify then that I've got a curly brace here that doesn't close anywhere. All the others have starts and finishes. See the squares pop up to show, the rectangles show where it starts and finishes. That one starts and finishes. This else statement doesn't have a red underline and it's got one before it. So I need one there as well. Good, we've got rid of one of the problems. There's another one, but I can't really see it. Oh, here it is. It's way down at the bottom. I'm a bit confused what that one is. Oh, it's expecting me to have a curly brace to close. Can't quite figure that one out just yet. And part of the reason that I can't find that one just yet is because my tabbing is all over the place. I've got a tab here, then it goes back here, then I've got this function here which has correct tabbing. There's some problems. So getting your tabbing right, the indentations right, is a really good way to help you read your code more easily. So the next thing I'm going to do, having got rid of that first red underline, first thing actually is I would save and try to run my script again. It's still not working, so it has more problems. So the next thing I'd be doing is saying, okay, I need to get these tabs right. This is all over the place. So everything in this function should be tabbed in at least once. So straight away, so if it starts here, I can't tell where it ends at the moment, but definitely all these if statements go inside it. And then I've got these curly braces, so everything inside the if statements should be tabbed in. And then already I can say, okay, my function starts here and it'll keep going. I'll need to work something out there. Those if statements are part of the my function. The things inside the if statements, I've got these lines showing, yep, they're inside these if or else if statements. Okay, that's still part of it, I think. Okay, so that's right. So they're tabbed in just once because it's not a very complicated program. They go there. This function, getRandomMax, that's a whole new function. So that should be on the left where it is, but that explains why we never close this one. My function needs to actually finish before this new function starts. So if I put that there and close the brace, notice it's automatically worked out that should be hard left. Now I can see what I'm working with much more clearly. My function starts here and ends there. GetRandomMax starts here, ends there. I've got this line showing this is all one function. Everything's tabbed in. It becomes much clearer what's going on. So I fixed the tabs, and in doing so I actually realized I was missing that curly brace. The numbers disappeared here. I don't have any more red underlines. So I've solved another problem by doing that. I'll save, I'll refresh, I'll run the script. It's still not working. Okay, something's still going wrong. So let's keep going. The next thing I like to do, we've checked opening and closing braces, I like to work through the code. Now that it's tabbed correctly, it becomes much easier to work through the code and sort of talk out, either in my head or out loud, what it's doing at each stage, and just check the logic of that. So I just realized that line's not meant to be there till later. So that's what I'm going to do now. If you had an algorithm diagram or flowchart, you could work through that while you looked at the code, or just if you understand the logic of the code in your own mind, because you've written this thing. So like I said, I'm going to work through it from top to bottom, explaining what each step's doing. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm letting the user have a guess. I use a prompt, get them to guess a number. That looks fine. I have a new variable called result. This is going to be a new paragraph that I'll put in my HTML here. I've got if the target equals guess, do that. That sounds good. Otherwise, else, if it's less, do that. Otherwise, if it's more, do that. Okay, so all of this, I'm sort of thinking in my head, is it doing what it's meant to be doing in order? I've just realized though, I'm talking about target here, saying if the target is greater, and I'm just looking up and I haven't created anything called target. So that's definitely going to create some problems. So, all right, what I need to do first thing is create the target variable. That's the number the person's trying to guess. So I had this down here, but having worked through it logically, I realized, oh, actually, that's like the first step, is I need to have these two variables. I'm going to have target and guess. I've created that result. I've created actually all my variables up here, so they're all sorted from the top, and then in the rest, I can refer to them. And so target here will be referring to that one, and that's much better. The last thing is I get the result, where I'm going to actually have the paragraph, and I say what the actual number was, and then I append that to there. So that all looks fine. Okay, I've worked through it. I've logically thought through it. I realized I had one thing out of order. You might find other problems. That's probably where you'll find most of your problems, is if you've got things out of order, if stuff's not logically doing what you want it to do. Okay, so I fixed that. I'm going to save. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to run the script. It's still not working. There's still things that are wrong. Okay, so now I get to dig in a bit deeper, and the main thing I wanted to show you today is a fantastic feature that you've got available called Developer Tools. Developer Tools are available in most web browsers. I've been using Chrome throughout these tutorials. You can click the three dots here to get the menu, go to More Tools, and find Developer Tools. If you're using a different browser, it'll be in a slightly different spot, but they should be available. I also have it memorized. Control-Shift-I on PC will open Developer Tools. When I click on that, it will come up on my second screen. I've got some developer tools here. It might look a little bit different for you. It might be, I can't think what it's called, docked into the web browser. I've made mine floating because I've got a second screen over here that I can put it on. You'll probably default open here. This is really handy. You can sort of see the different elements on your page. I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to switch over to the console. Okay, and straight away, because I'd already run this script, if I refresh it, I'll move this here. If I refresh the page, okay, I've got a nice clear console. There's nothing wrong with the HTML. I run the script, and it's telling me what's going wrong. I think straight away you can see how useful that is if you've got the computer actually telling you, I've got a problem right here. It won't help you completely, but it gives you somewhere to start looking. Okay, it's a little bit confusing how it lays this out. It's saying there's a problem with HTML button on click. So when I'm clicking the button, something's going wrong. But I happen to know it's not actually the button. It's when I click the button, stuff happens. Stuff happens in my function, in the script.js. That's script.js, the file that we're using, the script file. And it's saying there's something wrong at line 10. And it even tells me what it is. Get random max is not defined. Okay, so let me look at line 10. Var target equals get random max 10. That looks fine, but it's telling me there's something wrong. It's telling me get random max is not defined. In other words, it doesn't know what that is. but it should know what that is because down here is get random max. Now I've just noticed when I click on this and look really closely, I've got a typo. I've made a mistake. I've got a lowercase m here and a capital M there. It was something so small, and if I didn't know where to look, I could have been stuck for hours. But because I knew to look at line 10, I'm focusing on that, and I can quickly fix capital M. Save, refresh, run the script. It's working. I use the developer tools. You can see there's nothing coming up in the console here. So it is working. At number between 1 and 10, I'll guess 5. I guessed correctly. The actual number was 5. That's great. Let me run this again. I'm testing my program. I'm actually going to just use it a couple of times to see what happens. I guessed it right again, 3. I'll run it again. I'll guess 8. I guessed it right again. It was 8. Hold on a minute. That doesn't make sense. Sometimes I'm guessing... it's very lucky if I've guessed it correctly 3 times in a row. I'm thinking something's going wrong. So, using my console, using my developer tools here, I'm going to refresh that so it's clear. I'm going to use this console. You can actually write information into the console from your script. Let me show you how. So I'm going to... I'm not convinced that my guesses have been right every time. So I want to see what is the target number from the outset. So I'm going to add a line of code here where I write console.log. So what I'm saying is I want to log some information into the console. And inside the console, I'm going to put target. I'll save that. I'll move this over. I'll refresh. I'll run. Okay, over here you can see it's telling me 5. That's because I've told it, tell me what target is right now, and it's 5. All right, I'm going to guess 5 and see what happens. You guessed correctly, the number was 5. All right, great. I'll run the script again. This time the number is 2. Now this time I'm going to deliberately get it wrong. It's telling me target is 2, so I'm going to guess 7. Pretty far away from 2, and I hit OK. It's saying you guessed correctly. All right, now I know for a fact I did not guess correctly because it told me what the target was 2. It's telling me the actual target was 2, and now it's saying the actual number was 7. Something's going wrong. It's like the target here was 2, but then down here when it says the target, it's changed to 7, which was the number I guessed. Okay, that gives me a few clues to try and get me to work it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more. I'm going to add more to the console because that will help me a lot. So I'm going to write here target so that I'll know it won't just have the number, it'll say target. I'm also going to get it to tell me my guess. So right after what I'll do, I'll put them together so it's linked. I can see visually that they're linked. Down here I'm going to do console.log guess plus guess. All right, I'll save. I'll refresh. I'll run. Okay, so it's told me target is 3. I'm going to guess 5. Guess was 5. You guessed correctly. The actual number was 5. No, it wasn't. It was 3. Okay. So if it's saying you guessed correctly, where do I have that line of code? That's here. You guessed correctly. That's inside this if statement. So right before it says you guessed correctly, I want to see again console.log target 2, all right, plus target console.log guess 2 plus guess. This isn't the only way you could troubleshoot and I already have worked out what the problem is, but I am demonstrating for you how I can use this console over and over again. I'm using different names so I can differentiate which is which, and you can use it over and over again to figure out where your problem might be lying and to figure out what the problem is. So I'll clear it, the console clears, I'll run the script, target's 4, my guess will be 8. I want to guess wrong. So I should be guessing 4 to get it right, but I'm actually guessing 8. All right. Look at what's happened. It said you guessed correctly. It says the target was 8. And that's because the target started out being 4, but at some point it changed to 8. It changed to match. It was correct up here. It's wrong down here. So somewhere in between, something has gone wrong. You can see it's target both times, but it's changed. So what has gone wrong? As I look through these different things, it really, well, what I might do actually is to try and narrow it down. I'm going to move this first one down a bit. I'm going to see what happens here, because then I'll know if it's still correct here and it changes here, then there's something in just these 2 lines of code that's going wrong. So I lost my developer tools. There they are. So I'll refresh. I'll run the script. It hasn't told me anything yet, so I'll guess 5. Okay, so my guess was 5. The target was 4, and then the target changes to 5. It changes to match my guess. So somewhere between here and here, something's gone wrong. So I'm looking at this line of code. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that. There's no reference to target. It shouldn't be related. If I wanted to, I could move this down again, test again, to really narrow it down. And then I would know it must be this line of code that has a mistake in it. So again, it looks okay if the target equals guess. That's what I'm asking. But I know that target is changing to become guess. I know there's something wrong in that line. I've got it. If I check my syntax really carefully, I'll notice I have one equal sign here. An equal sign, a single equal sign, means assign the value. That is, make target equal to guess. So it's actually changing target to be equal to guess. In the same way that we've assigned it up here, a random number with a single equal sign. We've assigned guess using the prompt with a single equal sign. Here we're assigning target and making it equal to guess. In an if statement, if I go back, I can check my documentation, previous tutorials or online. I need 2 equal signs. I'm going to move this target up again because it's just a bit more satisfying to see it in that order. Trying to delete a line there and it won't let me. There we go. All right, I'll save. I'll move this over. I'll refresh. I'll run the script. Okay, the target's 2. I'm going to guess wrong. I'm going to guess 5. Okay. Sorry, your guess was too high because I guessed 5. The target was 2. The actual number was 2. It works now. Using the developer tools, using console log, I was able to narrow it down and work out where my problem lay. I can also now run the script again. I know target's 8, so it means I can troubleshoot, so I can test, sorry. So I know it's 8. I'm going to deliberately guess too low. I'm going to guess 3. Sorry, your guess was too low. Yes, 3 is less than 8, so that's correct. I can run it again. This time the target is 8. I'm going to guess 8. You guessed correctly. The actual number was 8. So I've now, because I knew what the target was each time, I was able to very quickly test it 3 times for the 3 different possible, I don't really need that one, for the 3 different possibilities, if it equals, if it's less than, or if it's greater than, and so I knew that it is working. Okay, so I haven't given you, I've given you a few strategies, but it's really up to you to be thinking through your code, be setting it up carefully so that you've got the right indentations, double checking that you've got the right syntax, the right spelling, 2 equal signs where you need 2 equal signs, all that sort of thing. And it's really up to you to problem solve, use those developer tools, use logical thinking to work out what your problems are. But that's it from me. You've got everything I know. It's really up to you now. Good luck as you work on your own independent JavaScript projects. Happy coding.